Hello, Scale House students. My name is Madam Gooch. I'm your head of school, and this video is for students who will be keeping a Commonplace journal for their classes at Lux and Arete. And so, if you are in the following classes here, you will be keeping a Commonplace journal this year. In Lux, it's the Guardians class, the Sentinels class, the Defenders, and the Cavalry, those four classes. And in Arete, you have life science, physical science, earth science, and ASPC. So we are so excited for you guys to be participating in both Lux and Arete. And but before we want to get into commonplace, I just want to mention something that is a rather uncomfortable topic that I think we should address because those of you who are to be watching this video are older. You're not in the younger grades anymore or haven't been for a while. And the thing I want to mention is the reputation of homeschoolers. Now, a long time ago, homeschoolers, I would say maybe 30 plus years ago, were usually the reputation of a homeschooler was a student that perhaps was gifted or advanced and was ahead of their peers. Or you had students that were extremely religious that were homeschooling. Outside of Utah, it was usually some uh, certain Christian churches really pushed homeschooling. And so homeschooling has evolved over the years, and different methods and philosophies have become very popular. But recently, in my ward, I had a gentleman get up who was giving a talk, and he was introducing himself, and he mentioned that he had been homeschooled. And then he said, I would never do that to my kids. And he also said it kind of in, just so you know, don't worry, I'm not going to ruin my kids by homeschooling them. And so here he's saying this at the pulpit. And then I've met a few other adults who were homeschooled, and they too were not looking upon their homeschooling experience as being favorable. They felt that they were experiencing educational neglect. One told me that she didn't know her multiplication tables when she was in high school, and so different kinds of experiences like that. And so what we're doing here at Skillhouse School is we are hoping that we can help change the reputation of homeschoolers. We want you to be able to take part in that um, because unfortunately, there's a new reputation that is set foot. And but what I want to say is, I don't know where all of you are starting. Maybe some of you feel you're a little behind your peers in your studies. Maybe some of you are far ahead in your studies. Maybe some of you are, you don't know, you have no idea where you are. Maybe some of you have felt that your education has been lacking in whatever way and for whatever reason. But what I want to say is, we're not going to point fingers at anyone. And I want you to practice that because resentment will only harm you. But it doesn't matter where you are or where you've been, it's where you're going. And so this year, as you participate in either Lux or Arete or both, I anticipate to see you meet the challenge. You are a son or daughter of God, and you are to be a king and queen in the eternities. So you are to have an education that is fit for a Christian prince or a Christian princess. You are to be prepared to serve in the eternities under Jesus Christ. So, really think about that. I also believe all of you will help usher in the second coming. This means a great responsibility lies upon your shoulders. You must be prepared as much as possible. There is so much at stake, and we are counting on you. God is counting on you to rise up to the challenge. And so, one of the ways to help you prepare for the great path that you have in front of you and the tremendous duty that is upon you. It is to do well in your classes and to work hard. And one of the things that you're going to be doing is keeping a commonplace journal. So, a commonplace journal is a powerful tool that many notable and famous figures throughout history have kept in practice. Um, so, is a commonplace journal just taking notes? Is it just copying down great quotes? What is it exactly? Well, truly, a commonplace journal is more than just note taking, it's more than just a copybook of quotes. It is an abridgment of what you have read, your summaries, your written narrations, important and specific quotes, yes, all joined together with your own questions and reflections. It is an archive of distilled wisdom. Adding commentary to your readings helps you to develop good judgment, to better know and understand good from evil. So, from the words of Moroni, he writes, "And now, my brethren, ye know the light by which ye may judge, which light is the light of Christ. For behold, the Spirit of Christ is given to every man, that he may know good from evil. Wherefore I show unto you the way to judge. For everything which inviteth to do good and to persuade to believe in Christ is sent forth by the power and gift of Christ." So, writing in your commonplace journal, it's reproducing wisdom and developing good judgment through the work of your own hand. This is going to transform you if you really take it into heart. Now, first of all, I do want to mention real quick here is your commonplace journal is not going to take up a huge percentage of your grade. And so it might be tempting to think, well, if I don't follow these, if I don't do the commonplace journaling like I'm supposed to, it won't affect my grade that much. However, I want you to keep in mind that the commonplace journal is something that will be a tool for you to be able to do well in your classes. But your teacher perhaps may spring upon you a pop quiz, but she may let you use your commonplace journal for your quiz, like through with your quiz, have it be open book. And so think about how valuable that commonplace journal may become if your teacher decides to have an open book quiz with your commonplace journal. So, I mean, these are blank pages for you to fill up with so many important things from the books you are reading, and that's a real huge gift that you would have at your fingertips. So consider that. Don't be as concerned about how much it affects your grade, but more about how it could transform you as a human being. All right, so how should you keep a commonplace journal? So here is a quick start list. First of all, we want to talk about what kind of notebook you have. On the supply lists on the website for your classes, I have a notebook that I've recommended. It comes in many different colors. It has a lot of pages. The pages are already numbered. It has a table of contents page. The pages are also thick, so your pen is not going to bleed through and affect the following pages. Um, so I highly recommend that journal. I find it to be a great one. However, if you already have a journal, a blank journal that you haven't started writing in yet, you can use that. You could use a spiral notebook. Now, you will have to number your pages. And the other thing I want to point out, if you're using something like a spiral notebook that has very thin pages, you should only write on the right hand pages of the spiral notebook, and through that you would only need to number the right hand pages. That way the bleed through is not going to affect the legibility of the commonplace journal. So keep that in mind. And then let's look. The next thing I want everyone to do, you're going to create a title page in your notebook. and you can write, my commonplace book. You can decorate your title page however you would like. However, it must include the following epigraph: to read without also writing is to sleep. Saint Jerome. And then at the back of your notebook, you can reserve some pages to create an index in. Now, your index might be something that you are going to be working on a little bit later in the year, and it's more of a useful tool for you to organize um, the different themes and great ideas of your commonplace journal. So after the table of contents, skip a few pages and you're ready to create another title page. You're going to create a title page for every book or every essay, everything that you're going to be writing from, commonplacing from. So create a title page for your first book. Um, Write the author's name on the title page. And that way, when you are making an entry in that section for that book, you don't need to worry about citating the name of the author or citating the name of the book. Because we'll go into the citations in just a moment. But I also like to take I have those notebooks that I recommended also came with some flimsy tabs where I put tabs, divider tabs on my title pages so I can easily flip to the section in my commonplace journal where I need to be writing. So you're going to be creating more sections for your books because a lot of these books you're going to be reading simultaneously or together. You might read a chapter here, a chapter there each week, versus reading a whole entire book before you start commonplacing the next book, if that makes sense. The way I just do it, you might find a better way, but I look at how long the book is or how long the assignment is for the book, and I decide how many pages I think I want to devote to that book. And then if I don't have enough pages, if I ends up using those up and I need more pages, I can create a part 2 section for that book later in my notebook. So, you know, I do want to say you do need to make a nice, fairly thick section for the catechism that you will have to write out by hand for your classes. That will be a project, though. I think it will be an ongoing thing. Um, excuse me. So we'll get to the catechisms later in another video, but let's focus on this commonplace journal. Let's get through this. So for the entries, you're going to follow this format. Between the entries, make sure you skip 2 lines between each quote or narration or summary that you put in there. Use ellipses to cut out unnecessary parts of the quote. Cite each quote. Again, because you make a title page of the section of the book that you're commonplacing, you don't have to write out the name and the title every time. Instead, write the page number and perhaps the character that is speaking. This might help you as well if you're taking a quiz or something and you have an open book quiz. It might also be helpful to include the chapter or stanza depending on the book. Please date every entry. I like the abbreviated date myself. And then you're going to tag the entry with brackets. For example, if I wanted to tag the entry with the theme of money, I would tag it, excuse me, like you see on the screen, brackets, money, bracket. So tags are normally themes, great ideas, or figures of speech. And then here it says optional, right? Of reflection on the quote. Now, it's only optional in the sense that you don't have to do it every time. But I want to encourage you to reflect as much as possible. Self reflection is, especially when you're reflecting great ideas and not just petty little everyday, uh, little habits or things that are going on in your day, but actual great ideas. This is the stuff that feeds the mind and prepares you for a life of the mind that could sustain you in your darkest hours. So, this is important. Okay, so next we have here, I think on the left, a layout of one of Leonardo da Vinci's commonplace journals. And then we also have Madame Curie as well. So keep in mind your teachers at Scale House School, again, will be checking your commonplace journals now and then as part of your grade. This means what you write in your commonplace journal must not be personal thoughts and secrets that are meant for a private diary, all right? So keep that in mind. What you write in your commonplace journal should be academic and philosophical musings that could aid you in your class, like I said. You also may need to make a reasoned argument in class and provide evidence for your argument. Your commonplace journal should be a treasure trove of evidence for the different questions and ideas you want to share with others. Illustrative sketches can be helpful, but please do not doodle in your commonplace journal unless it relates to your topic. Remember, this is a serious academic exercise that will affect your grade. Um, going back to wanting to change the reputation of homeschoolers, it's not just what other people think of us, it's how we perceive ourselves. And if you are going to become an adult who's walking around with a major chip on his or her shoulder because of of the way you were educated and thinking that you were um, given the short end of the stick, that can truly, that in itself, that bitterness and resentment can be a great hurdle in your life. And so um, I'm not just concerned with the reputation of homeschoolers per se, but I am concerned with this ongoing sort of anything goes, this lack of follow through, this being behind. And because it ultimately, it's the student that suffers the most from this. And so, um, really, I want you to delve into your commonplace journal, treat it very seriously, um, and let's go ahead and move on. No, first I want to mention the Savior said, behold, excuse me, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise servants and as harmless as doves. So your commonplace journal will help fortify your soul in a world filled with wolves. To be a wise servant whom the Lord can count on, that's what we need you to be. So remember, what are the three things people are always wanting to take away from you? Your innocence, your money, and your virtue. Having an archive of distilled wisdom created by your own hand will help you walk with courage as a sheep in the midst of wolves. All right, so I recommend keeping a few index cards or a small notebook in your pocket to mark down important thoughts and impressions during your day. Then later in the day, set aside some time to transfer your best ideas into your commonplace journal. Maybe a good time would be the last 10 minutes of your school day, perhaps in the evening after dinner. It just doesn't matter. Just make it a habit of trying to engage with your commonplace journal on a daily basis as much as you possibly can. Um, but this allows for two layers of memory to take hold, to be writing something down on a card or in a little tiny notebook, and then later coming back to it later in the day. Sorry. Um, so first, you have the immediate capture. That's when you jot down the thought or the quote or the important concept onto the card. And then second comes reflective reinforcement, to allow the knowledge and understanding to percolate further into your mind. This system for commonplace journaling is often called a personal knowledge management system, or what polymaths call PKM. So, what is a polymath? For those of you who might be unfamiliar with the term, excuse me. So, here's a famous polymath, and in our two of our Lux classes, we'll be reading Benjamin Franklin's autobiography this year. So we can see that he was a writer, a scientist, an inventor, a statesman, a diplomat, a printer, and a political philosopher. Now, one thing you would not call him is a jack of all trades. He was a true Renaissance man. A jack of all trades is someone that dabbles and just grazes the surface area of many things. A polymath dives deeply and studies smartly. Okay, so a polymath, the reason I bring this up, that's what I want you to strive to be. And that might seem like a big ask, but with slow and steady hard work, I believe anyone can become a polymath. We are to do everything we can to better serve Jesus Christ. And as wise servants, we should not restrict our own capacity for learning only a few subjects and having them be subjects that we already really enjoy. Um, you know, we think of the founding fathers as carrying out a special mission to prepare this country for the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ. God needed these men because a lot of them were polymaths. I don't know, maybe all of them were to an extent. So we just have some that are more famous than others. Now, this is a lot of hard work. I'm asking you to work hard and to understand it's going to feel hard and it's going to feel impossible. I want us to remember the maxim: first a thing is impossible, then it's difficult, then it's done. So, again, remember slow and steady wins the race. And like the ancient Romans said, festina lente. Festina lente, it means make haste slowly. One popular way to envision festina lente is the head and torso of a hare and the shell of a snail. So, excuse me, this is a paradox. And yet, a paradox we find is an ally of truth. Paradox is pregnant with the possibility of harmony and resolution. So, festina lente means that all of our activities must be with proper balance of urgency and diligence. It means spending our time wisely to practice patience, but not dawdling or procrastinating. It means giving yourself time to think, however, not to wander aimlessly lost in thought, but to put good thinking into action. Much of life consists of marathons and not sprints. So I want you to begin writing in your Commonplace journal before classes start. We have about 3 weeks before August 25th, which is when our first classes in Arete begin, and then our Lux classes don't begin until after Labor Day. Guardians and Sentinels and Lux, your assignment is to write in your Commonplace journal 1 to 2 times per week and consider killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Perhaps in your homeschool studies, your mom has you do copy work or written narrations. You could put those in your Commonplace journal and reflect further upon those. And then Defenders and Cavalry and all upper school Arete students, your assignment is to write in your Commonplace journal 2 to 4 times per week. Now, if you're doing both Lux and Arete, you need to just keep the same number. You're not going to double it. So if you're in Cavalry and in one of the Arete classes, you still just need to do 2 to 4 times per week. You're not going to do more than that unless you want to. But that's what the requirement remains the same. So remember too, upper school Arete students, you are expected to be reading living science books outside of class. You will receive a suggested reading list from your teacher. However, if you already have a living science book that your mom at home in your home studies is having you read, that can count. And think of that as a book that you can commonplace from, but also you can commonplace from your textbook as well. All right, if you have any questions, you may email me directly at Madam Gooch at scalehouseschool.com. We're going to have more videos come out this weekend. Specifically, the catechisms will come out slowly over the course of this week, and we will explain that further. And we hope everyone will start reading the God Proofs. That is a book that you will need to have finished before Arete begins. That's a book for the Arete classes, not for Lux. I hope you guys can enjoy your last bit of summer, but also get yourselves prepared and ready to do first a thing that is impossible, then something that becomes difficult, then it's done, right? I am confident you will rise up to the challenge.